Well, in today's video, I'm going to be changing out the water pump on a 2010 Nissan Rogue. But if you haven't already, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, as well as check out my channel content for more. And when it comes to cars, hey, have fun. Obviously, I'm not in my normal setting. I'm actually in the other, kind of the other side of it, because I'm using that for something else. But I'm going to be changing out the water pump on this 2010 Nissan Rogue. And it's actually a really straightforward process. I mean, you could buy the whole assembly, and I chose not to do that. I chose just to replace the water pump with the pump gear instead. It was a lot more of a feasible option for me to do instead of having to replace the whole water pump as one unit. Like, pop the whole unit out and do that. Basically, it's a very simple process. You just have to take apart a lot to get to it. And in the process, I decided to replace the alternator because, you know, the alternator needed to be replaced anyways because the bearings inside were going bad, and you can kind of hear that by the way that the alternator was going. I'm not talking about the brushes, I'm specifically talking about the bearings. The bearings were making noise when you put the mechanic's stethoscope to it. I apologize, I'm a little congested right now, but without further ado, I'm just going to go right into it. So what is the noise that we've got? Sounds like a belt whine or something. I don't know if you can hear that. It sounds like a belt whine. Using a 21mm, I'm going to loosen and remove the lug nuts. Removing the wheel and tire from the vehicle. To get to the belt, all of these panel fasteners that cover the oil filter housing must be removed. So there. Start by removing them. If I can get them out without breaking them, which seems very unlikely because that one just literally broke. Let's see if this one will come. No. Well, maybe. Wait. One? Maybe one? Oh, yay! I got one. This one? I'm just gonna pry this one. This looks like one of the other ones that I just tried to pull off. Wait, maybe? Maybe? Interesting. Got these. Pop the pin out. Let's see if I can yank those out. Now I can pull this whole panel out. I can now remove this inner shield out of the way so I can get access to the belt. Using a nut driver and a T20, I'm going to remove the 3 retaining bolts that hold the inner fender well into place. Slide this aside. Just pull this aside. Pull it through so it clears. Carefully pulling it out and working it out. There was a panel clip right here that actually wasn't in there, fell out. Just kind of working it out. All we have to do now, just bend it back enough so it's outside of our way. Exposes us to the AC compressor clutch, this harmonic balancer, the tensioner, and there's an idler back there too. Using a belt removal tool, I'm going to use a 13mm, sliding it on, and I'm going to slide it on to the tensioner, the auto tensioner, like so. Pull the auto tensioner off and pull the belt off. Looks like there's a slot for a Allen key or some sort of bit that I can stick inside of the tensioner pulley to keep it held in place. So that's what I'm going to end up doing, is putting that pin or tensioner holder like Volkswagen has into place. You can see where this pin hold down is. Right here. There's a little notch right inside that I can stick something into. I switched over to a breaker bar. Small breaker bar, so I can get a little more swing action. Looks like that held out. I hit the belt. Well, oh, there we go. It allows me to pull this belt off and slip it back on. Ta-da! Okay, we're around the water pump. And now we're past the idler pulley. Awesome sauce. And now I can route it out. I'm used to doing this on a hoist now. I don't really work on the ground. And I'm like, holy crud, I'm on the ground. And there's the belt. Looking at this belt, it doesn't look too bad. There's a little bit of cracking in there. Let's test it. I can see some sunlight through it. So this belt is pretty worn. Check all these pulleys. That one looks okay. It's quiet. Doesn't feel like the AC is hanging up on it, or else we would hear it. So that's a good pulley. I know, it looks brand new. I did it like in January in the cold. Tensioner sounds alright. On the side of the block there's an idler. Awesome. From the top here we got a water pump. I don't know if you can hear that. You can hear inside. This thing is making noise. Everything else sounds all mechanically sound, so let's pull the alternator. Do anything electrical on a car using a 10mm on this vehicle. Going to loosen up the negative battery terminal. And just tuck it aside. This is our alternator right here. It produces power to charge the battery and the accessories on the vehicle. A lot of the times these will actually go bad, but sometimes the bearings go bad, like what this sounds like right now. And the bearings have gone bad, creating a noise inside the car and the belt. And what it's going to result in is either a whining or a grinding. Now keep in mind, on this particular vehicle, we have our positive direct power from the battery, but on this vehicle you either have a 2-prong or a 3-prong. So when I pull this up, it's a 2-prong. I already know that because we have 2 lead wires going right into the alternator. That's a good way to tell. Otherwise, I'm going to start disassembling it from the vehicle. Using a 12mm and a ratchet, I'm going to pull back or move the AC aside and remove this lead. Moving the nut and pulling this lead up and out of the way. As you can probably see, there's 2 wires going into this connector, telling me it's a 2-wire connector or a 2-prong connector. And some of them will have 3.
Some of them will have 2, varying on your specific model that you have. Each model is different, so this one actually uses a Hitachi unit, it looks like. And yeah, I mean, just unplug this. Using a 10 millimeter, I'm just gonna loosen that bracket up. I'm gonna put that bolt back in so when my new alternator comes, I know where that bolt goes. Now I can pull all of this lightly over to the side, making sure it doesn't hit anything or get stuck anywhere. If I zoom out here, it's right there. I know it's dark and hard to see. And then the other one is right here. This is held in by 2 bolts. Use a 14 millimeter and loosen up the upper bolt. Oh my God. Nope, denied. 14 millimeter. And this is a snap-on SN15A breaker bar. I don't know how much beef I needed, but I figure at least I can use beef with this. Oh, that was a satisfying sound. You hear that break free? Now I should be able to remove it or loosen it with my normal 3/8 drive ratchet. Assuming how tight this actually was, I know it's not been removed. So I'm assuming that I'm gonna have to do the same for the bottom. Oh my gosh. Those are tight. Oh God. Didn't make that satisfying sound though. There it goes. Let's see if I can use my... I'm going to move back to my normal 3/8 drive ratchet with the 14 millimeter, see if I can actually move it now. Oh my gosh. Holy mackerel. This sucker's tight. But it's moving. I may be able to honestly take this top one off and pivot it forward a little bit, the alternator forward, give me a little more clearance. There we go. Yay! That only gave me like that much more clearance. Don't judge me. As I said, don't judge me. Once you get away from hand tool world and go into electric tools all the time when working on cars, and you have enough turnover for that, life is so different. And there's our long bolt. Move it from the vehicle. This may need to be pried out if I can't just yank it away. But that is not the case here, folks. That is the alternator. Can hear it making noise. Yep. Going to prepare the water pump. So first thing I have to do, and it looks like it got wet or it was damp out here. I mean, there's a little bit of rust on there, but I'm going to drain the coolant from the vehicle. First thing I have to do is remove these clips that hold this underbody shield up. I don't know if this has been ever out. You know, I'm just gonna... That hit me in the face. Okay, I guess I am not gonna do that. Yes. Yes. Which comes out so nice for some reason. All I'm going to do with this is just rotate it out of the way. I'm gonna place a collection pan underneath the vehicle where the coolant's gonna fall so I don't get it all over my driveway. You would think that all the things that Nissan ended up cutting corners on, this is pretty interesting. I don't know if this is original, but somebody put a hose here, or Nissan did, where the pepcock is. So I just gotta loosen that and then the coolant will fall right into the pan. Getting over the camera. Make this process go just a little bit faster, I'm gonna open the cap. There it is. Alrighty, so there's an O-ring on here. If it was cracked, torn, or anything, you would want to inspect it. That O-ring is right here. I removed the little hose piece so I could let it drain. And since we're not even dripping anymore, I figure I'll just put this back in here and snug it up. I've cracked that water pump. I feel like it's gonna go everywhere. As this was already here, why not? It's my little doggo! She wants to give me a hand on the Nissan. I apologize about my dog in the background. She's watching me work on the car. My little helper just wants me to play. Alright, so I've got 1, 2, and 3 holding this water pump into place, and then I have to pry it away from the block. This is actually a really simple process, but the problem is these are only torqued to 18 foot-pounds or pound-feet, and prying it away from the block with this much clearance is a little difficult for some. And as well as that, you're going to need a crow's foot to torque these down, which I don't actually have here at the moment. Using a 12 millimeter, I'm going to loosen up the bolts that retain the water pump into place. And I may need to get my wrench extender. Let's see. Ugh! Holy mackerel. Let's try it from the bottom here. Wrench extender. Worst welds ever. But what do you do when you have 5 minutes and you need to get something off? You make a huge pipe. Also, the card table didn't exactly enjoy getting torn apart like that. We got the wrench extender on there. Let's see if it'll come free. Oh, yes! Let's see if this one will come free. I made this wrench for bigger wrenches, not this small thing. Yay! Think it's moving. Oh, this thing's already loose. And it's dripping. It's dripping. I'm gonna let it drip nicely into this pan. So then when I crack it open, it's not gonna go everywhere. And crack it a little more. Just kind of open the floodgates a little bit. There we go. Yeah, it kind of just spreads out like that. I don't want it to do that. I just kind of want to keep it as clean as possible. Bad luck like you won't effing believe. My wrench, the gear wrench that I'm using, fell in here. You can kind of see the edge of it. Here's a tip for you. Don't drop the wrench between the condenser and that. It's not the easiest thing to get out. Now I can slowly remove this one. Now keep in mind, if this thing was stuck, there's a tab here where I usually just pop a pry bar there. Pop it once and it'll come right out. Using my now saved gear wrench. Oop, going the wrong way here. there it is. Just going to use a pry bar against the side of this motor mount and see if I can get myself just that much more clearance. Cruddy monkeys. There it is. Woohoo! You can hear the bearings on this one. And we also want to make sure that the gasket's actually there. And in this case, the gasket is still on here. So it means we just have to clean up the mating surface and install the new one. This is actually pretty clean right here. If the gasket material here was held up on the actual water pump housing, then we would want to clean it up, but the gasket came off with the water pump. So what I'm going to do is spray some brake clean. Down in there, take a paper towel and just kind of wipe that off a little bit to get any of the residual off. It doesn't look like I need to do a lot of preparing because this is actually pretty smooth. If it wasn't, then you would want to take a razor blade and clean it up, but this is actually pretty smooth, and I can probably just reinstall the new water pump just like that. I kind of want to make sure that these two water pumps are at least alike or identical. You see how you can only really put them in one way? I wouldn't want to have it go in and realize that they're not alike. So that's good. I'm going to just put a little bit of RTV on the seal or on this mating surface. Spread it a little bit, like so. Why did I do that? Well, if you watch, I can press this in just a little bit. I can slide it in without the gasket falling, so now I can install it. I'm going to pry out, slide this into place, slide this bolt in, okay, so that slid in. Install the lower, finding where the gasket is. So now that the gasket's lined up, I can snug that one down too. Take the third one and stick it behind, making sure it clears the gasket. Snug that rear one down, or at least get it to grab first. I can probably use my hand for this. Go to the bottom. This one here, this one's going to be really challenging, so I'm going to use my gear wrench for that. With them all bottomed out, these are only torqued to about 18 foot-pounds. I don't have a crow's foot wrench, so I'm just going to snug them up by hand and use judgment at 18 foot-pounds. Now keep in mind, that's not a lot. So that's snugged enough. That's a little more than 18 foot-pounds, but I don't want to damage the housing, and I definitely don't want any binding. 18 foot-pounds, just bottom it out, a little extra. It's good. Do the same for up here. I'm going to use my gear wrench for this one. I am not going to use the gear wrench for that. Okay. Alright, now the water pump installed. It's pretty quiet now. I'm going to reinstall the alternator. Sliding it in. And I'm going to align it so that the prongs on the bottom line up. And then I can get the ear to the top. So I have it reversed. Obviously, I need to turn it around so that this bottom half can clamp down on the bracket, and that this will line up right here. Bring back the 14mm bolt that holds this up into place. and snug it down like so. I'm now going to reinstall the bottom bolt to the alternator. We'll slide right in theory. Let me bring you over here so I can actually see a little better. So now that that one's in, I can snug it down. Torque the bottom one to 49 foot-pounds. Torqued. And the top bolt. Okay. Well, there goes my light. It's rebuilt, I thought. Probably. Probably it's rebuilt. I'm gonna pull this aside and bring back our harness. Without breaking the dipstick, I'm gonna lift over the dipstick. There's our plug. There's our bracket that hooks right here. Then there's the positive lead going to the battery, which I'm going to reinstall. My neighbor just chose to do his lawn right when he saw my lights come on. It's a common occurrence. He doesn't like people working on cars, especially youngsters. Pull back the AC a little bit, pull back the harness, slide the cable on, put the nut back in place. There's the nut, because I seem to have dropped the other one. That 12 millimeter, which it is not a 12 millimeter anymore. So I'm gonna switch the nut with the old one. There it is. You don't want to overkill it, but you do want it snug. Sometimes the old fasteners just don't, the new fasteners just don't cut it for me. I like to have the original fasteners. I don't like to have a mixture of standard and metric, and I don't like a car that has no sizes of like 12 or 13s to be mixed up either. Take the rubber boot and just slide it right back up on top, like so. Reinstall the bracket with that 10 millimeter. And it kind of just slides right in. Snug that down. You don't want it like super tight and you don't want it overkilled, so I'm just gonna snug that down. Made a crucial error here. This has to go on second because I can't get the connector in. Whew. That's what happens when you walk away from a project for a little bit. You forget to do that. I'm just gonna loosen up that 12 millimeter. Popping that connector off. I'm taking my 2-prong connector, plugging it right in, making sure it sits right in there and clicks. You hear it click. Might be a little difficult because of my neighbor. And then I'm going to slide that 12 millimeter back on to the alternator. Plug it back down. That alternator is now installed. Now the belt can be reinstalled. So here's our belt. And I'm going to start by routing it from the top and working my way down. Alrighty, so I have it almost on there. I can't hold the camera, so I will be right back when aligning the belt and the pulleys. So just to show you, I am lining it up. I will be right back. Before I relieve tension, this is from the upper portion of the view. We go up and straight down to the AC and then to the harmonic balancer. This is the idler, which goes around the water pump pulley and up over this. Going down from the idler pulley, we have the belt going around the crankshaft and harmonic balancer pulley, up over the tensioner, and then down over the AC. I can remove the Allen key that is holding the tensioner into place using my belt tool, my belt pulley tool. Find where that Allen key is. I'm gonna pull that out and let the tensioner apply tension to the belt. Because it's getting dark out, I already filled up the car with coolant. I did not rebuild the underbody splash shield right now. I'll film that tomorrow. There's the coolant jug, just to show you. And then I am now going to tighten down and reinstall the positive and the negative terminal. It's supposed to rain tonight, so I want to get as much as I can completed. Snug down battery positive first. Reinstall the cap. Do the same for battery negative. Alright, now we can start this thing. Keep in mind, I already started this. There's our key. It says Nissan. And once you fill the vehicle up with coolant, you want your thermostat all the way up, vents open, and AC heat on. So I have hot heat right now. Holy moly. I can reassemble the bottom half of the car where the splash shield is, and I can also put the wheel and tire back on. Reinstalling the inner fender well onto this vehicle. I'm gonna just kind of tuck it in place, like so, making sure everything lines up. Now that everything's in, just kind of working my way down the side, like that. Now realign this underbody splash shield into place and reinstall the screws that retain it into place. And yes, I'm aware it's a little dark today. Faster Horses is going on tomorrow. Okay, installed. This should be pretty straightforward. I'm going to put this panel back. It's kind of raining at the moment, so I'm going to end up putting my camera away in just a little bit to finish this project up, but I'm going to reinstall this plastic panel back into place that covers the oil filter, as well as the underbody splash shield. And now that, as you can probably see the rain, that's why I didn't film it, all of the panel clips are now back in, and I can reinstall the wheel and tire from when I disconnected or took it off. Picking up the wheel and tire. Reinstall it onto the vehicle, like so. Reinstall the lug nuts in a star pattern. The wheel barely touching the ground, I'm going to torque the wheel lug nuts to 86 pound-feet. Now the vehicle is done.
I'd be lying if I said it wasn't really straightforward. Obviously, the work really depends on your skill ability and realistically what tools you got. You know, it's a very simple process to take this water pump out. The 3 bolts that hold it in were pretty much the most challenging part. You know, they were really tight, and clearance getting into them was a little limited. I really wish I had those flex head or at least an offset ratcheting wrench, because you couldn't get a regular ratchet in there to get those 12 millimeters off. Otherwise, and I replaced the tensioner during this whole process. I was spinning around all the pulleys, and you know, it's a good time to check them all and replace them while they're all apart. So the tensioner also got torn off and replaced. Overall, it was a really straightforward process to replace the water pump on this 2010 Nissan Rogue. And hopefully this video aids to your repair as well. As normal, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, as well as check out my channel content for more. And hey, when it comes to cars, have fun. You know, I like to videotape things both for my personal enjoyment and for people to see what I do. Personally, I'm debating right now if I should continue trying to edit out all of my little flaws or quirks, and or personal problems that I encounter with the vehicles, because oftentimes when you're looking at a video, you don't see those personal problems. Maybe a rusted bolt that you have to spend 30 minutes going in and out with, or heating up, or you might see some of my isms, which I call as a better way of saying it, where I'm like doing something and I'll be like saying something out of line, kind of funny, or you know, I twitch, or I'll do this, or I'll be talking about something completely random. Like, I do this because I really enjoy, you know, yeah, there we go. I do this because I really enjoy showing the world what I love to do, and what I have to show is really awesome because I'm building this kind of unique viewpoint from my personal eyes. But on the other hand, it's just, I'm debating whether that's something that somebody wants to see. Like, if I struggle with this connector, how do I get it out? What's the best approach? Or do you actually like seeing my struggles? This process didn't work. Or, oh look, a shiny object. Because, you know, that's my personality right there. And I mean, I would love to share that with the world. I would love to share more of that to you. But otherwise, let me know. Honestly, if you like my quirky self, I'll kind of just leave it as is because it's more personable for me to do that. And it creates a lot less editing for me to do that instead of having to, you know, edit cut for cut and be like, oh yeah, this didn't make sense. Or I'm starting to shake a lot here. I'm like, because, you know, yeah. Otherwise, hopefully this helps. As normal, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, as well as check out my channel content for more. And hey, when it comes to cars, have fun.